The championship battle has just taken a brutal twist. After months where Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris seemed to have Red Bull crushed, McLaren's dream has cracked wide open. Baku was the turning point. Piastri in the wall, Norris stranded in 7th, and Verstappen back on the top step. That single weekend cut the gap to 69 points, and with 7 races left, the whispers inside McLaren's garage have turned into alarm bells. Piastri himself admitted an emergency meeting was called to discuss Verstappen's resurgence. That revelation is explosive. It's proof that even McLaren know momentum has shifted. Formula One is never just about speed, it's about strategy, psychology, and timing. And right now, Verstappen has all 3 on his side. If you're into F1 without the fluff and want to ride every twist of this roller coaster season, hit subscribe now, because what's happening behind the orange walls of McLaren could decide whether 2025 is remembered as their glorious return or as the season they let Verstappen steal it all. For weeks, the story was simple. McLaren ruled. Piastri, calm and ruthless in execution, led the standings. Norris, sharp and aggressive, matched him stride for stride. Red Bull? Written off. But Monza and Baku ripped that script to shreds. Verstappen's back-to-back victories were not luck, they were a statement. At Monza, he crushed qualifying, controlled the race, and silenced doubts. In Baku, he doubled down, turning McLaren's chaos into his opportunity. Suddenly, a 69-point gap no longer feels safe. To put it into perspective, with 7 races left, that margin is smaller than Hamilton overturned against Massa in 2008, and barely more than Vettel clawed back in 2012. Momentum matters, and right now the graphs are clear. Verstappen's curve is rising, McLaren's is falling. Even Andrea Stella admitted Red Bull's gains are across the board: straights, corners, consistency. Respectful words, but they sound like warning flares. Inside McLaren, the numbers are haunting. Piastri still leads, but Verstappen's has slashed the gap to within striking range. If Red Bull keep this pace, 2 more wins could put Max right on Oscar's tail. And that leaves McLaren staring at a brutal question. Can they afford to keep their drivers equal? Until now, the dream was balance. Let Norris and Piastri fight and let the constructors' crown take care of itself. But in Formula One, titles are lost when teams hesitate. Just ask Ferrari in 2010. One wrong call, one misjudged priority, and the season unravels. Günther Steiner, never afraid of blunt words, has already weighed in. McLaren must back Piastri now. His reasoning is cold. Both cannot win. Better to sacrifice one than lose everything. It's ruthless, but history agrees. Teams that gamble on fairness often end up beaten by those who pick a number 1 early. Not everyone agrees with Steiner's ruthless logic. In the UK, much of the media still frames Lando Norris as the face of McLaren's rebirth, the driver who carried the team through the lean years and became a fan favorite. Demoting him would not just be a tactical shift, it would be a public relations earthquake. In Australia, the tone is very different. Piastri is already seen as the nation's next world champion after Alan Jones in 1980, and every headline calls for McLaren to double down on their prodigy. Even within McLaren's pit wall, opinions split. Engineers want clarity. They know data wins championships. But among the drivers, emotion runs deep. Norris is only 25 points behind his teammate, still close enough to dream. Asking him to play second fiddle would risk resentment at precisely the moment Verstappen is closing in. Piastri, by contrast, has been measured, hinting publicly that the team must prioritize the leader. Those words, subtle but sharp, suggest the internal battle has already begun. For years, Verstappen has thrived as the hunted, the man everyone chased. But in 2025, the script has flipped. Now he's the hunter, and that might make him even more dangerous. With no pressure to defend, he can attack freely, piling the psychological weight onto McLaren's shoulders. Red Bull sense it too. Helmut Marko has already teased that Singapore will be the real benchmark. If they're quick there, a track that Red Bull's weakness even in their dominant 2024 season, then the comeback dream becomes a nightmare from McLaren. The psychology is brutal. Verstappen has nothing to lose while McLaren risk everything. And history warns us what happens when rivals hesitate. In 2021, Max broke Livy Lacey Hamilton by seizing every small mistake. In 2023, he and Red Bull wrote records no one thought possible. Now, with momentum back on his side, the question is simple. Can McLaren stand firm when the pressure is at its furiest? All eyes now turn to Marina Bay. The Singapore Grand Prix has always been a brutal test. Slow corners, suffocating heat, and walls waiting to punish the smallest mistake. For McLaren, it is more than a race, it is a referendum on their title credentials. If Piastri and Norris dominate here, the noise from Baku fades, momentum is restored, and Verstappen's charge stalls. But if Max wins on a circuit where Red Bull have historically suffered, the alarm bells will be deafening. Even in Red Bull's record-breaking 2024 campaign, Singapore was the track that ended their streak. That makes this weekend a fork in the road, revival or collapse. McLaren must execute flawlessly, pit stops, tire calls, team orders, because every misstep now will be magnified. And hovering over it all is Verstappen, the three-time champion who knows exactly how to exploit weakness. Singapore will not just test engines and drivers, it will test McLaren's nerve. Singapore may decide the title fight on track, but the bigger gamble could come from within McLaren. At Monza, we already saw cracks. Piastri was asked to move aside for Norris after a pit stop mix-up, proof that equality isn't always so equal. Since then, Piastri has spoken more openly, hinting that the team must prioritize the leader. For a driver to say that mid-season is rare, it signals the debate is already raging inside the garage. Norris, though, is not built to play second fiddle. With just 25 points behind his teammate, he knows he's still in this fight. Accepting a support role would feel like betrayal after years as McLaren's spearhead and marketing icon. And if he resists, the fallout could be explosive. Public tension, fractured strategy, even lost points. Meanwhile, Verstappen watches and waits. He doesn't need to create the chaos. McLaren's own indecision might hand it to him. Formula One rewards decisiveness. Teams that hesitate, Ferrari in 2010, Mercedes in 2021, pay the price. McLaren now stand at that same crossroads. Constructors' points may still lean their way, but the driver's crown, the jewel every team truly craves, is suddenly fragile. The brutal truth is this: either McLaren pick a number one and go all in, or they risk losing everything to Verstappen. It's not just about cars and strategy anymore, it's about power, politics, and survival at the top of the sport. For fans, this is what makes 2025 so gripping. A young star in Piastri, chasing Australia's first champion since Alan Jones in 1980, a loyal warrior in Norris refusing to step aside, and a relentless hunter in Verstappen closing in with nothing to lose. The next chapter, Singapore, could decide everything, so stay locked in. And if you want to dive deeper into McLaren's internal war, click the video on your screen now, because this story is only getting hotter.